The Incorporeal Observer, Part 1. It was a stormy night when I found the journal in the basement of our new house. We had just moved in, and I was exploring the dusty, cluttered space, trying to make sense of the boxes left behind by the previous owner. The journal was bound in cracked leather, its pages yellowed and brittle with age. Curiosity piqued, I sat down on an old wooden crate and began to read. The entries were mundane at first, detailing the daily life of a man named Thomas Kerrigan. But as I flipped through the pages, the tone shifted. Thomas wrote of feeling constantly watched, of shadows that seemed to move on their own. He described how his tools would disappear, only to reappear in odd places, and how he would wake up at night to the sound of footsteps echoing through the house. I was halfway through the journal when the lights flickered. I glanced around, feeling a sudden chill. The basement seemed darker, more oppressive. Shaking off the unease, I continued reading. Thomas's final entries were frantic, his handwriting jagged and hurried. He spoke of a presence, something he couldn't see but could feel. He was convinced it was driving him mad, pushing him to the brink. The last entry was dated October 13th, 1923. It simply read, "I can't take it anymore. I have to end this." As I closed the journal, a loud crash echoed from upstairs. My heart raced as I hurried up the stairs, calling out for my wife, Emily. No response. I found her in the kitchen, staring at the floor. The vase that had been on the counter was shattered, pieces scattered everywhere. "What happened?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Emily shook her head, eyes wide with fear. "I don't know. It just fell on its own." We cleaned up the mess in silence, both of us unnerved. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Thomas and his descent into madness. The house felt different now, as if the shadows themselves were alive. Around 3 a.m. I heard it, a faint scratching sound like nails on wood. I sat up in bed, straining to hear. The noise seemed to be coming from the hallway. I got up quietly, not wanting to wake Emily, and crept towards the door. The scratching grew louder as I approached the staircase. I peered down into the darkness, the dim light from the hallway casting eerie shadows on the walls. The scratching stopped. I held my breath, listening. Then a single loud thud echoed through the house, followed by the sound of something heavy being dragged. Heart pounding, I grabbed the flashlight from the drawer and descended the stairs. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing nothing out of the ordinary. But the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. I swung the flashlight around, half expecting to see someone standing there. Nothing. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, the flashlight flickered and went out. I cursed under my breath, fumbling to turn it back on. When it finally did, I found myself facing the basement door. It was ajar, a sliver of darkness beyond. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The basement was silent, but the air felt thick, heavy. I swept the flashlight across the room, and my heart nearly stopped. There, in the corner, was a figure, a man hunched over, scratching at the floor with his bare hands. "Thomas?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The figure stopped and slowly turned to face me. His eyes were hollow, empty voids. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Panic surged through me, and I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. It rolled across the floor, casting wild shadows on the walls. I turned and bolted up the stairs, slamming the door behind me. My mind raced. Was it really Thomas? Was I losing my mind like he did? I rushed to the bedroom, shaking Emily awake. "We need to leave," I said, my voice barely a whisper. She looked at me, confused and scared. "What's wrong?" "Oh, there's something in the basement. We can't stay here." We grabbed what we could and left the house, not looking back. As we drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The house stood there, silent and foreboding. The basement window a dark, gaping maw. I never found out what really happened to Thomas Kerrigan, but I knew one thing for certain. We were never alone in that house, and whatever watched us from the shadows was still there, waiting for its next victim. As we drove into the night, a question gnawed at my mind. Had we truly escaped? Or was the unseen watcher now following us, biding its time?